managed to turn their biggest star's hometown celebration into a financial disaster. And what did Kathy Engelbert finally say about
the WNBA has been hit with the most devastating reality check in professional sports history. A collapse so obvious that no amount of carefully crafted PR spin, celebratory headlines, or manufactured social media hype can cover up the truth anymore. And it was on full display the night Angel Reese, the so-called product and self-proclaimed face of women's basketball, finally made her long-awaited return to the court after missing 7 games with a back injury. As her comeback, which was billed as the triumphant moment to prove the league's supposed growth and ability to thrive without Caitlin Clark, instead turned into a disaster that perfectly exposed the harsh truth hiding behind the curtain. The WNBA's foundation is built not on loyalty, competitive balance, or genuine interest, but on celebrity tourism and manufactured narratives that vanish the second the league's true superstar is not front and center. Because while Angel Reese dropping 19 points in a losing effort for the Chicago Sky against the Seattle Storm should have been a feel-good story of perseverance and redemption, the numbers painted a catastrophic picture that sent shockwaves through the entire sports world. With just 6,724 fans showing up inside Wintrust Arena, an arena that seats nearly 10,000 people, meaning almost 3,000 empty chairs stared back at Reese as she attempted to reclaim the spotlight. A humiliating visual that made her so-called triumph feel more like a failed publicity stunt than the moment of glory the league so desperately wanted to sell. And this wasn't just a one-off bad night. It was the culmination of a disturbing pattern that has haunted the league all season. A pattern that proves beyond doubt that the WNBA's so-called growth is nothing more than smoke and mirrors, because when the lights dim and the cameras stop rolling, the reality is empty seats, plummeting ratings, and fans who simply don't care unless Caitlin Clark is involved. And that is the inconvenient truth the league doesn't want anyone to acknowledge, because the hype machine might pretend otherwise, but real numbers never lie, and the numbers are brutal. The league can continue parading around slogans about growth, empowerment, and inclusivity, but the data tells a story so bleak it almost feels cruel for the players, who have sacrificed everything for a league that still struggles to prove its relevance. Because the entire narrative of unprecedented growth was shattered the moment Caitlin Clark went down with a quad injury in May, when television viewership cratered overnight by 55%, with games without her averaging a pitiful 394,000 viewers compared to the staggering 1.178 million her presence consistently drew, exposing the undeniable truth that Clark is not just another player. She's the oxygen keeping this league alive, and when she is absent, the WNBA suffocates. Angel Reese's return was supposed to prove that other stars could fill the void, that the league could thrive on a foundation of multiple marketable players, but instead, the disaster at Wintrust proved the opposite. Even in her homecoming moment, Reese could not pack the house, she could not spark the kind of buzz Clark generates effortlessly. She could not carry the WNBA the way the Iowa legend has done from the second she stepped on the court, and the optics of half-empty arenas flatlining. Ratings and fans tuning out in droves revealed that the supposed star power of Angel Reese and others simply does not translate into genuine fan investment. The humiliation didn't start on August 19th against the Storm either. The warning signs were there from the very beginning of the 2025 season, screaming at anyone willing to pay attention. Because when Reese returned to LSU in May for a much-publicized preseason exhibition, one that should have been a historic night of nostalgia and celebration, the Pete Maravich Assembly Center, a building where Reese became a legend, a national champion, and a household name, couldn't even manage to fill half the seats, as only 6,373 fans showed up in an arena that holds 13,215. Leaving thousands of empty seats is a cruel reminder that even when gifted the perfect storyline, the WNBA could not manufacture real demand. And though Reese recorded a respectable double-double with 15 points and 10 rebounds, the atmosphere felt dead, like a meaningless scrimmage rather than a triumphant homecoming. and the silence inside the arena told a story louder than any stat line could. People simply weren't interested. Contrast that to Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever the very next day, who drew 12,461 fans for a preseason game despite Clark not even playing due to injury. And the hierarchy of star power in the WNBA became undeniable, with Clark's mere presence on the bench being a bigger draw than Reese fully healthy and on the floor. A reality so harsh it stripped away the illusion that the league is being carried by multiple superstars, because in truth, it is Clark and Clark alone who fuels demand, who drives ratings, who fills arenas, and the comparison exposed Reese's attempt to position herself as Clark's rival as hollow and unconvincing. The jealousy, the resentment, and the endless attempts by Reese to claim she is the reason people are watching women's basketball now fall apart under the crushing weight of reality, because the public has voted with their wallets, their eyeballs, and their attendance, and the verdict is clear. Without Clark, the WNBA is background noise. With Clark, it becomes a cultural phenomenon, and even ESPN, which has bent over backwards to hype Reese and manufacture rivalries, admitted that the biggest disappointment of the season was the lack of storylines between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, which is a veiled way of saying there are no storylines worth watching at all, because without Clark, the league has nothing to offer. This was brutally confirmed by the 2025 All-Star Game, which, stripped of Clark due to her injury, collapsed in viewership from 3.44 million to 2.19 million, a 36% drop that shattered any illusion of sustainable growth, proving the league's rise in relevance is a fragile house of cards built entirely on Clark's back. And when she isn't there to prop it up, the whole structure comes crashing down. And fans are not just tuning out passively, many are actively boycotting, refusing to watch games or support a league they see as hostile to Clark, and dismissive of her supporters, a boycott fueled by the blatant way the league has mistreated her, from snubbing her for the Olympics despite being the most impactful player in the world, to allowing constant disrespect and physical targeting on the court, to using her image to sell tickets while simultaneously undermining her in the media. And the result is a fan base that would rather walk away entirely than give their time, money, or loyalty to a league they believe has betrayed its biggest star, which is why ratings and attendance collapsed the second she went down injured, and why even Reese's so-called triumphant return couldn't salvage interest, because Clark's absence revealed the truth. The league without her is irrelevant. But the carnage doesn't stop at TV ratings, because the real disaster has been playing out in arenas across America, where the sight of empty seats has become impossible to ignore. And nowhere has that been more obvious than in Chicago, where, despite having one of the most marketable players in the league in Angel Reese, despite playing in a massive market, despite endless media promotion, the Sky still ranked 9th out of 13 teams in attendance. A humiliating placement that made a mockery of the league's growth, narrative, and the numbers are unforgiving. When Reese was healthy, the Sky averaged 9,471 fans per home game. But when she missed time, attendance plummeted to just 7,560. Nearly a 20% drop that revealed how fragile even her limited drawing power really is. And it proved that without constant headlines, controversy, or manufactured drama, even the so-called Bayou Barbie cannot convince people to consistently show up. This fragility makes it clear that fan loyalty in the WNBA is a myth. That attendance is not built on genuine, lasting interest in teams or the sport itself, but on the temporary flash of celebrity, and the second that flash dims, so does the crowd. Meanwhile, expansion teams like the Golden State Valkyries have managed to sell out games by riding waves of novelty and local enthusiasm, but individual franchises are being exposed for their inability to sustain demand, and the league's obsession with optics, record attendance headlines, cherry-picked stats, and endless marketing campaigns is being undercut by the images of empty sections broadcast on TV. Images that tell the real story. The WNBA is desperately propped up by Caitlin Clark, and without her, the entire enterprise looks shaky at best, doomed at worst, because fans are not showing up for Angel Reese. They are not showing up for the Sky. They are not showing up for the league's manufactured narratives. They are only showing up for Clark, and the minute she isn't there, the mirage disappears. The WNBA wanted to prove it was more than just one player, but every passing week without Clark has proven the exact opposite. And the ugly reality the league now faces is that, unless she is on the court, they cannot escape the devastating truth. The numbers don't lie, and the WNBA without Caitlin Clark is collapsing under the weight of its own hype.
Cole gets the handoff. Dantas inside.
The WNBA's so-called growth narrative just suffered another crushing blow, because when you strip away the headlines, the hype, and the endless marketing campaigns, the core product simply isn't compelling enough to sustain real interest. And nowhere was that more obvious than during Angel Reese's prolonged absence, when the Chicago Sky collapsed into a humiliating freefall, going 1-9 without her, averaging a pathetic 63 for points per game, and losing by an average margin of 6 points. A level of futility so embarrassing that fans didn't just abandon the team, they abandoned the idea of even pretending to care, turning empty seats from an occasional issue into the permanent reality. And when Reese finally returned to practice in August, the league's desperate machine swung into overdrive, with headlines hyping her comeback, social media accounts counting down the days, and marketing executives framing her return as a triumphant, can't-miss event that would reignite fan passion. But when the moment arrived on August 19th at Wintrust Arena, the reality was a brutal slap in the face, because fewer than 7,000 people bothered to show up, leaving thousands of empty seats staring back during what was supposed to be a major homecoming, and instead of a sold-out celebration of resilience, it became a stark reminder that WNBA fandom is paper-thin, fragile, and entirely dependent on perfect circumstances that rarely exist. Even Reese herself seemed to understand the precarious nature of her situation, making cryptic pre-game comments about pushing distractions aside just to hoop, then breaking down after the game while admitting that sitting out had forced her to wrestle not just with rehab but with figuring out what's going on with myself, exposing the mental toll of carrying expectations the league can't deliver on. And her coach Tyler Marsh's revealing words only confirmed the subtext, admitting that Angel is in a position most people